Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Business research method, a subject which uh, contain a theory and practices relate to business research, and business research is what actually finding a solution of the problems through systematic way. And systematic ways that would be some mechanism, some formulas, some variables, framework, structure, which will give a guideline or facts and which will give the results through facts and figures. So I will be giving the snapshot of business research method in a way that I have tried actually to create a storyline from A to Z, so you can easily digest what is actually business research method, and what would be the classification, and what would be the component, and similarly method, technology, and so we will be covering till introduction. So it means it will be covering around the component, structure, framework, variables, all the things. So we will be, in the coming slides, we will be covering all these stuff further. So the content of the outline of this video is actually introduction of research, which will cover defining why and classification based, and research topic, how to finalize your research topic. This is actually a critical and important, in fact, a mandatory approach, which I have, cover in a way, design in a way that you can easily digest and figure out that in a one slide that how you can select your research topic, right? And similarly, then theoretical foundations, processes, frameworks, types of variables, and literature review, and how to write that, and paraphrasing, writing, so citation, references, reference management. So all about is that, we will be starting from introduction of the research until covering that introduction in literature review writing as well. So that is actually summarizing in that 30 minutes video. So let's start. सबसे पहले what I want to explain you the research. So what is research? Research is a simple an activity which going through from unknown to known. Whatever is unknown approach in a different prospect, you can identify with the different methods, with the different approach, or with different modalities, or maybe a simple way you should be doing a research, right? Or explore the reality, explore the things, explore the approaches. Maybe it's subjective, or maybe it's qualitative and quantitative, everything. So research is simple process of finding solution to a problem occurred throughout study and analysis of situation factors. But business research is a systematic and organized effort to investigate a specific problem encountered in work setting that needs a solution. That means we will be talking about the business research. We will be talking about the applied research, but we will, explore, or maybe have a sort of small flavor or a taste of all the research types. So let's talk about the classification of research. So classification of research is actually categorized into 4 pillars. That is one: application, objective, time-bound, inquiry mode. So for application, it means how the research is applying actually. So there's 2 ways: pure or basic, and applied. Pure or basic is, though I will be covering in the next slide, but let explain there. So objective would be, what would be the objective of the research? It's exploratory, or it's explanatory, or maybe it's a descriptive. So we will be covering the next slide. Time bound, time dimension, the counted. So cross-sectional and longitudinal, and inquiry mode, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. So all these research classification will be, in a form of a pair. We will be doing in a year. We will be performing these activities in the research paper, whatever which we are researching on a specific topic. So let's talk about application, basic and applied. Basic is a research or fundamental research. It's all about to improving or understanding the phenomena, concept, the law of nature. This type of study is actually based on how, what, and why questions, and we are exploring the things more and more just to clarify the concepts, figure out the things, and it's not bounded. It's unlimited sort of. And whereas applied would be bounded, it will be a particle. It will be too specific to problem. Whatever is the problem which has been identified, that we will be applying a research to find out the solution of that existing problem. So these two types are normally using, and more or less we will be focusing in the later part on the applied search instead of the basic search, right? So objective search here. Objective search is actually further categorized, as I told you, exploratory, descriptive, explanatory. And so I've just Tableau form to create a snapshot that actually digest the understanding of these three. Exploratory, unstructured, because we are exploring, and normally it belongs to activity of basic, right? And similarly, asking research questions at the stage of decision making. Descriptive would be explaining the things. You will be mostly explaining the things. Asking research question is conducted towards the methodology would be asking research questions. Later stage of decision making, structured, but it is structured. Explanatory, which is the most used classification in the world of research. So that is highly structured, where we will be defining the variables, constructs, frameworks, and defining them, linking them, creating the hypothesis, and then applying different calculation methodologies. And accordingly, we will be defining the solution of the problem, or maybe creating a decision pattern, right? So this is explanatory and so on. So similarly, we will talk about time dimensions. It's a cross-sectional and longitudinal. What is the difference? Like cross-sectional is the data collected at one point. In both cases, you actually collecting the data, but cross-sectional may at one point in one time and repeatedly over the time. So this is the major difference. So it's actually a time dimension research, but actually you will be finding, and it will be applied on both cases, explanatory and exploratory as well. Similarly, the most inquiry mode research is the quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is actually numeric facts, figures based, and you will be creating relations, doing a comparatives, descriptive, experimentals, right, and applying the methodologies. So you will be talking on some numbers, right? But in a qualitative, you will be all about its subjective, right? So based on some grounded theories, right, and normally narrated to case studies. It's more or less subjective, not numeric. So in majority in explanatory research, we will be talking with quantitative methodologies as well. So these are the classifications which I have given you a snapshot on that. So let's talk about this, because our core component is research paper. So let's talk about components of research papers. What is this? So research paper is actually title page, abstract, introduction, literature review, theoretical background, hypothesis development, methods or maybe methodologies, somewhere you find findings, analysis, results, and then discussions, conclusions, and reference and appendix somehow if required, otherwise not. So what is actually abstract? It's a summary of the whole research paper. What is the introduction? We will be talking about in the next coming slides. Similarly, about the literature review, theoretical background, hypothesis developments, methodologies, finding. No, it's literature review is actually a briefing or a detail of all the variables covering in that research paper. So you will be, defining them, problem statements, or problem statement problem statement, and providing the detail of the variables, its functionality, its relationship, or similarly what type of method you are going to use. Hypothesis development is also included in the literature review. Similarly, theoretical background. So that's all about in that way. So further we will be, through methods, we will be evaluating these hypotheses and finding the results based on these methods. So we will be analyzing and creating results, and that these results actually help us in concluding the discussion. And definitely we will be using a reference documentation, maybe research paper, maybe digest, maybe magazine, maybe article, maybe case study, or maybe a book. So it will be referenced through some reference mechanism, which we will be covering in a later part. So that's all about the components of the research paper. So I've just summarized that as a component. Let's talk about research. So what is research and how to finalize? It's actually, research is a journey. So how to finalize the research topic is like that, if you will be starting any journey, and if you don't know the, your location or a destination where you want to go, so ultimately you will be, you will be in mess. So research topic is actually a key component. If you have actually that destination in your mind, ultimately you can easily do a reverse engineering and create a best paper. This is my learnings, right? So steps to select the research topic. Steps: call for papers, latest publication, systematic review, meta-analysis, theoretical gaps, and future decisions. These are the steps which we are, following to get this, to identify in fact the research topic. So what is call for papers? Call for papers is actually a search with choice of topic, or search call for paper for your respective search domain. What actually is this? So call for paper is actually whatever is the topic you want to, work out, you can do that activity directly. Or the easiest way is that you should write down on a Google, just search about the call for topic. For example, call for papers on green human resource management, or maybe call for papers on green supply chain, or maybe you can say call for papers on supply chain management, or logistics management, operation management. So you will find those journals where they have already published some reference topic in which they want researcher to research. So this way you can, get the potential topics in your bucket. On that, maybe you little tune up, or maybe you can, further work out on the basis of that one of that topic, thus you can, step forward. So latest publications. So if you have selected a topic from call of papers, you will actually find out the latest publication. I will say that not more than 3 years old. Why? Because first attempt is that in less than 3 years, you should copy that. So you will find actually a latest update on that topic or relevant to that topic to start your research, right? And a systematic review. Skim the latest paper, notice on framework, variables, and future findings. I will park that point here and do the theoretical gaps. This is actually a framework model and variables, or similarly future directions. Opportunity to explore is in the same capacity with additional variables or methodology, right? So what you will be actually doing, call for papers to choose the topic, and then identify latest publications, and the dig up the 30 to 50 papers of the latest publication, less than 3 years or maybe less than 5 years, okay? Whichever you easily find out, and from the top journals. So after that, you will be actually start doing a meta-analysis. It's a table, year, title, abstract, model, variable. So what you will be doing that all these 30 papers with years, title, abstract, and model variables, you will be pasting that in future directions. So actually theoretical gap and future direction is covering in the model variables and future direction columns, right? So systematic review is actually the whole picture, which I'm telling you as a systematic review. What you will do that these 30 papers, you will skim in terms that you will notice only the framework, variable, future findings, and that will be, clubbing or consolidating in the tabular form as highlighted in the meta-analysis. So now you have a position of meta-analysis in the form of 30, maybe minimum or maximum 40, 50 papers and future directions. So that's a great activity, minimum 30 to maximum 30. That means you will be getting a 30 to 50 finding opportunities, multi-topic choices. I hope paper is ready. Why? Because in these 30, skimming these 30 papers, your mind is actually exploring the things and many openings in your mind. So actually, you will be opening the doors of the minds and see through the future direction eye, and through future direction statements, you will be actually finding your opportunity. And maybe in these 30 papers, you will be selecting the top 10 papers, which is similar or close to your problem which you have identified as a topic, right? So this way, why I'm saying paper is ready, because these 10 papers actually carrying your all variables, carrying your all sort of content stuff, carrying your all references paper papers and the definitions. So almost you have done a 60% work through these meta-analysis. This is my learning, and based on that, you should reading these 10 papers. So actually you will be ready to draft your own literature review. I'm just skipping all the slides, so let me park that discussion there and talk about in a coming slides. So that's all about. So now this is happening through major tool, that is browsing. And browsing is very simple thing, but to typically search the topics, it's become a challenging for the students. Like if we will be talking about green supply chain, so that means we will be focusing on supply chain. So should be inverted commas. So we will be figuring or getting topics, or sorry, research paper specific to that topic, right? So this is the one thing. So that's make it simple. How that's a shortcut to browse top publishers. You will just download, skim it, or maybe make a bookmarks for these top publishers. Similarly, these are the links. So based on that, you will be actually finding the call for papers from these sources and getting 30 paper at least from these sources. So these are the tops. So actually you will be getting a top knowledge in form of 30 papers to grab your, meta-analysis. So with this tool, right? So things gonna be easier, right? And now we will be talking about the theoretical framework in variables. So what I have done that I have tell you the research paper, its components, and then its style of researching or choosing your topic. So the steps which I have figure out, I have just told you. Now the variables. So once you have selected these 10 variables, sorry, 10 papers, in which you will be finding the framework, where you will finding the variables and some variables which will be reflecting in our future directions. So how these will be interacting with each other before going to, before creating that framework, we need to know how many variables we have, right? So let's talk about the variables. Variables are actually independent, dependent, mediating, moderating, and control variables, right? What is independence? An experimenter, direct effect on independent variables. So that is actually an independent variable which will be depending on some dependent variables. And as an experimenter, performing a character, performing an or acting as an experimenter. Similarly, dependent variables is being tested, because based on dependent variable testing, we will be actually materializing the independent variable, whatever is the X amount. So we will be, reiterating through, examples in the later slides. So it's the mediating variables, linking the independent and dependent variables, and explain the relationship between them. It will be enhancing the relationship between two variables. Moderating is actually supporting, strengthening, or maybe weakening those variables. Controlling is actually constant and limited scope. It's become a silent partner sort of things, right? So what is dependent and independent? So for example, entrepreneurial behavior is actually emotional intelligence, right? And similarly, emotional intelligence, job autonomy, perceived organization, sports is entrepreneurial. So entrepreneurial behavior is actually independent variable and depending on emotional, job autonomy, and perceived. If emotional intelligence maybe is the good or bad, or maybe is whatever is the scale of measurement. Similarly, job autonomy, similarly perceived organization support. These three factors is actually helping, supporting, navigating, or maybe creating a negative or maybe positive behavior of entrepreneurial approach. So it's the dependent and independent variables methodology. So whatever the variables you are defining, either it will be depending. So you need to check in the framework. I'm just going back to these 10 papers. So you need to check these variables and see if which variable is dependent and which variable is independent. And accordingly, you will be tweaking the framework. Similarly, mediators. That's why simple emotional intelligence and entrepreneurial behavior, as we have told that entrepreneurial is independent, emotional intelligence is dependent, right? But creativity is actually adding the value to modify entrepreneurial behavior. That's my learning, right? Similarly, direct impact भी हो सकता है, or it's a different models actually, but actually creativity is passing, as adding a value in terms of proving emotional intelligence with creativity is actually creating entrepreneurial behavior. This is the concept. So moderating is actually, similarly, if I will talk about emotional intelligence, so emotional intelligence and entrepreneurial behavior in between organization commitment is necessary. This is an important moderator between verifying these independent variables. Like teaching effectiveness है, student learning होगी, but academic facilities is important thing. If we have not right tools and techniques there, then teaching effectiveness and student learning is zero. So similarly, this is the moderating approach. So that is the variable. So we will talk about in terms of variables is dependent, independent, moderator, and mediating. So these four variables actually, we will be playing in the research papers with these four types of variables, and why we need to know about definition, because this is very important to create. This is very important before creating any framework, or maybe taking an existing framework and adding some new variables. This is very unique, critical, right? because if your framework is mistakenly wrong, it means your whole paper will be going in a wrong directions, right? So literature review, why we review literature, right? And similarly, sorry, why we review literature that is actually belongs to, let me connect that slide with this. Once you start skimming the 30 papers, you will be reviewing the literature. So you must know why you are reviewing the literature. What would be the extract materials from these literature review? Literature is actually facilitating you in refining the research ideas because it contains the summary, it contains the variable definition, it contains a variable linkage, relationship, evaluation, assessments, what mechanism has been used, what would be the methodology, gap identification. Everything is in the literature. So you can as easily skim and get these information. Imagine if you will be reviewing the top 10 papers close to your topic, how much, getting your knowledge and how it will be refining your thought process. And you will be very precisely actually getting a knowledge in terms of your variable existing and the addition of that variable and their relationship and their linkage and what would be the results. Ultimately, it will help you in the later part in terms of methodology and research analysis, uh, uh, methodology and findings and results. Results analysis. Yes, of course. So, key components of literature क्या होती हैं? अब जब रिव्यू हम कर रहे हैं तो हमें रिव्यू के दौरान हमें ये भी पता होना चाहिए इसके अंदर होगा क्या है। जैसे मैंने पहले ब्रीफ किया कि थ्योरेटिकल फाउंडेशन है, अब वेरिएबल्स होंगे, रिलेशनशिप्स होंगे, फ्रेमवर्क मौजूद होगा, हाइपोथेसिस मौजूद होंगे। सो ये कुछ की कंपोनेंट्स आपको लिटरेचर के अंदर मिलेंगे लिटरेचर रिव्यू में। सिमिलरली सोर्सेज, ये लिटरेचर रिव्यू निकलेगा कहाँ से, या लिटरेचर रिव्यू में लिखा हुआ मटेरियल रेफरेंस कहाँ से हो रहा होगा। These are the things: magazine, journals, annual reports, published, databases, and how we will be, creating that reference management. We will be talking in the later part. I hope I will be connecting you from the previous slides with the existing slide. So this is the exemplary explanation कि literature में theoretical background की बात की, hypothesis development की बात की, methodology की बात की. I have just given this snapshot of theoretical framework, and H3 is actually hypothesis. This is an exemplary approach which I have taken from the top research paper and just figure out these examples here in terms of literature review, right? So now we came to know that what is the components and how can we choose the topic and what would be the variables and how we can plug these variables in with the existing framework and start creating your own search. So we are covered that. Now we will talk about now we are ready to write the research paper. So before writing a research paper, the first component is literature review. So how to write that literature review is the game, right? So how to write the literature review is actually, we will be creating some key points, which I have just actually created some key points in the slide just to grab that in an overall picture, how we can bridge that literature review through this. Although I have already told you, if you have selected top 10 to 10, so you ultimately, you have a copy of your 70% literature in these 10 papers. And that's my learning actually after repeating multiple exercises. So key points. We are assuming you have worked on meta-analysis and selected top 10 papers, which carried you a lot of materials, data points, definition, references, citations. All data will help you in drafting your literature review of the paper topic you selected. This is assuming that you have worked on it. If you have not worked on it, every step in the coming in forward every step will be useless for you. So draft is ready actually. Add the detail about your additional variables, mark references. How the draft is ready? Because once you review the literature, the definition, if you will be, suppose if your variable is talent management, if your variable is, sourcing, if your variable is actually demand planning, logistics, reflecting to supply chain, and if your variable is talent management, comp and ban, relate to green HR. So you will be finding the talent management, you will be finding the definition of comp and ban, in fact, compensation, in fact, people. So all these variables, you will be finding the different definition in top 10 papers. So ultimately, you can write these multiple definition into your own words by understanding that. Maybe you can consult through books. So you have a lot of knowledge to draw that comp and band definition easily in your own words. So that is actually a draft. I just quote that example. Through this frame, you can actually create the literature review frame in your own words. Now the exercise is add details about your additional variables, mark references. This is an important thing because what variable you are engaging with the existing framework is the new research which you are going to figure out. For example, you have existing framework is the talent management comp and band, but you will say, okay, technology advancement would be directly, impact on the green human resource management. So that's mean technology advancement ke upar, you have to figure out further 4 to 5 papers on top. And by doing research on technology, maybe advancement, maybe technology advancement impact on HR, something like that. So you will, find out some sort of data points, facts, and knowledge, which help you in creating or, structuring your additional variables with that frameworks, and that you will link that, right? So this is the way. Now, the point is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is the technique. Maybe it's a tool, maybe it's art, which actually you will be, whatever you have read, you should rewrite in your own words. So you should be, getting a synonyms, getting similar words, typical words, knowledge, vocabulary, grammar. It's all about paraphrasing because it's an important in actually you are going to be a writer. Actually, you will be writing the things. So actually, it will be paraphrasing. So and EndNote is actually I'm briefing in the next slide, but X9 is mentioning here because reference management. Whenever you complete your literature review with all variables, with all definition, linking, relationship, hypothesis, you will definitely referencing with that. And beware, references doesn't mean that you will be copying that similar statement from the other papers. You will actually read from different papers and just to translate or maybe convert into your own words by referring them. Okay, I have seen that human resource management definition or maybe supply chain concept in the XYZ paper. These are the references, or these references actually linked with the software called N9. So it will be convenient that will create the references as well as citations. So now draft is ready. So I hope till that how to write the literature review, I try my best to convey in a snapshot this concept, right? So let's talk about how to put citation. Similarly, I have already told you, you will install N9, sorry, EndNote, and after installing EndNote, you will, go to Google setting, and in Google setting, you will find out EndNote icon or a menu tab, which you will activate. So what will happen that whatever is the research, whatever research paper you are searching in the Google, it will show at the end where the citations is involved, or maybe to citation, or separately at the end you should find out the EndNote tab. So this will help you actually citing or maybe creating an EndNote library through directly searching the papers in the Google Scholars. So you just need to click on the citation, and after citation, you will find a note, and just to click that, the file will be saved in the EndNote library with the whatever XYZ name, and once it will save, you will run it, and it will automatically create a reference in the library. And when you will connect that reference and with the Word file, you should actually make show your cursor where you want to be reference or cite that link, and just press Alt+2, and you will get that reference code there. So it's short brief or about the code citations. So this is all about an distance scopus, and this is all about oh yes, it's so different. So it's actually a library. How to create a library? Actually, you should create a new copy. Sorry, or wherever you want to save that library will be actually, for example, you will be searching on green human resource management. You will create a new copy by the name of GHRM, and that is actually a library which contains relevant papers related to GHRM. So whenever you will be saving to Scholars all the files, it will be saving in GHRM folder. So it will help you, save your library separately, or link for the linking. So this is the way for creating a library. So now we will talk about hypothesis development. Hypothesis kya hai? If then statement, directional, non-directional, null, and alternative. If then statements means if your employees are more satisfied, then organization performance will be enhanced. If transformational leadership exists in the organization, then followers creativity. Yani, if condition, if ये है कि employees satisfied तब होंगे जब organization की performance enhance होगी. So condition आ गई organization performance, or if employees are more satisfied, so then statement होगी. इसी तरह directional and indirectional, there is a significant and positive relation between brand image and brand loyalty. Emotional exhaustion negatively associated and with job satisfactions. Women are more motivated than men. So there is significant relationship between brand image and brand equality. So significant is non-directional. Positive relation is directional because it will be stating a clear perception what exactly positive or negative. If I will say significant, so it will be non-directional. So depend on that key how you will be creating this hypothesis. I will explain you with the example in the latest slide. So null hypothesis is developed to be rejected in order to support an alternative hypothesis. Means it will be just playing a part of neutral part in positive and negative hypothesis. So this is hypothesis information community technology advantage compared to e-learning of students, then e-words of Mao student satisfaction and university. This is the framework, theoretical framework. So hypothesis. Information and communication technology has positive relationship with the e-learning of students, right? Is similarly e-service quality. Similarly, if information technology has a positive association with the e-learning, positive, that means we will be actually talking about directional message, directional hypothesis, right? And condition is that if e-learning, if you need to be, create e-learning for students, so information and communication technology, positive relationship with the e-learning. So dependent on, information communication is e-service and e-information technology quality is the dependent on independent variable, that is e-learning, right? So similarly, this is the way which we will be creating the hypothesis, right? So how to write an introduction chapter. So till now, we have talked about components, variables, say how to select the topic, and then literature review. And now we are going to talk our hypothesis. Now we are talking about two introduction chapters. I have just merged that introduction chapter in the one slide. Like introduction is actually the background of the study, problem statement, research question, and research objective. This is actually the four pillars which help you in writing the introduction chapter. Okay, what is the background of, what is the purpose, or what is the reason of your study, and what would be the problem which you are going to solve. Similarly, in these bases, actually you will be finding that background and problem statement based on the research question and research objectives. Because if you have no objective, if you have no question, then you cannot get the exact problem statement or solution. So these are the things which you will be creating in the introduction chapters. Significance of the study, theoretical contribution, practical implications, scope of the study, thesis, organization, actually is the bullets of that introduction, which I have already told you that significance क्या है, problem क्या है, और उसका solution क्या है, और उसकी solution में contribution, उस solution को निकालने के लिए theoretical contribution क्या आ रही है, practical implication क्या आ रही है, ठीक है. Theoretical contribution होगी basically आप अपनी खुद से एक थ्योरी का रेफरेंस कर रहे होगे. प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीकेशन होगी जो आप उसको बता रहे होगे कि जो उसके रिजल्ट्स एक्चुअली डिफाइन हो रहे होंगे. इससे स्कोप ऑफ स्टडी है एंड दिस. सो इन अ पैराफॉर्म में अगर बात करूं तो इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ योर सेक्टर्स, इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल्स, इंट्रोड्यूस योर प्रेडिक्टर्स या अदर वेरिएबल्स, थ्योरेटिकल गैप्स, पर्पस ऑफ योर स्टडी. That is actually a sequence to write the introduction chapter, right? So this is all about the summary from, or in fact a journey from research to introduction, where we have covered research components, where we have covered how to choose the research topic, and that exercise is very easy to convey and convert into slides. And then we have talked about the variables and the hypothesis, because these are the major contributors in helping you drafting the literature review, then introduction chapter, and then definitely we will be talking about the methodologies, questionnaires, where from we will be getting the data facts, and that based on this data we will be running some analysis, and based on these analysis and some assumptions we will get the results. These results actually nullify, maybe proving our hypothesis, either positive or negative, whatever which we have defined. So that help in that's all exercise help us in concluding the research paper at the end, and help us in drafting future opportunities for others. So this is all about the journey of the research paper. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hope you understand that. Thank you.